All right, so buckle up, because today we're diving into something that, well, a lot of people think they understand, amending the Constitution.
It's one of those things, right? You learn the basics in school, but
But there's a whole lot more to it.
exactly.
So we've got some excerpts here from pasted text to help guide our deep dive today, and we're going to really unpack just how much goes into changing the Constitution.
Because it's a big deal.
Huge. And it's way more complicated than just, getting that two-thirds vote everybody talks about.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start right at the beginning. If we want to change the Constitution, where do we even begin? How does an amendment even get proposed?
Well, the most common way, the one you probably remember from those Schoolhouse Rock videos,
Yeah.
is through Congress.
Right.
Got to get a two-thirds majority vote in both the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Which is already a pretty tall order. You need more than just a simple majority.
Yeah, they set the bar high for a reason.
And that's just the first step. But our source actually mentioned another way to propose an amendment, one that's a little less conventional.
Ah, yes. A method that we've actually never used in U.S. history.
Whoa, really?
It's true. It involves something called a constitutional convention.
Okay, I've heard that term thrown around, but what does it actually mean?
So basically, if two-thirds of state legislatures, so we're talking 34 out of the 50 states, if they all agree, they can call for this convention. And each state would send delegates to this special assembly, and their job would be to, well, propose amendments.
Okay, so it's not Congress doing the proposing this time, it's this convention. But that sounds kind of intense, almost like rewriting the whole Constitution.
Yeah, it's a big step, and I think that's part of why it's never been used. The last time we had a constitutional convention, we ended up with, well, the Constitution we have today. They kind of scrapped the Articles of Confederation and started fresh.
Right, so understandably, people might be a little hesitant to open that door again.
Exactly. Plus, there's this concern about what they call a runaway convention. Basically, the worry is that the delegates could go beyond their intended purpose, propose changes that weren't even on the table initially.
So it's like, who knows what they'd come up with?
Yeah.
Better to stick with what we know. But, okay, let's say an amendment does get proposed, whether it's through Congress or this mega convention thing. We're still not done, are we? It's not official yet.
Nope. Still got to get it ratified. And there's more than one way to do that, too.
See, this is what I mean. It's so much more complex than people realize.
It really is.
So we've all heard that 3/4 of the states need to approve an amendment. But how does that actually happen? What are the options?
The usual route is through the state legislatures. 3/4 of them, that's 38 out of 50, have to give it the thumbs up.
Okay, makes sense. But our source material mentioned another way to get to that 3/4 agreement, something about state conventions.
Right. This method's only been used once in ACE, for the 21st Amendment. The one that repealed prohibition.
Ah, prohibition. Now that's an interesting one. Why go through all that extra trouble just for that particular amendment?
Well, think about the context. Prohibition was wildly unpopular. So instead of just going through the state legislatures, which might have been hesitant to directly contradict a previous amendment.
Right, they'd be overturning their own earlier decision.
Exactly. So the Constitution offers this other option, ratification by special state conventions. Basically, each state gets to choose delegates specifically for the purpose of voting on this amendment.
So it's like a more direct reflection of what the people want, cutting out the middleman, so to speak.
Exactly. A pure, unfiltered yes or no on that particular issue.
So it's fascinating, right? This choice between state legislatures or these special conventions. It's like this balancing act between going through the people's elected representatives or going straight to the people themselves.
Absolutely. It's a question of representation, and it highlights some really deep tensions about how we make decisions on these fundamental changes to the very structure of our government.
Okay. All this talk about checks and balances brings up something that really surprised me when I was reading through the source material, and that is the president doesn't have any formal role in this whole amendment process.
Or no, right?
You'd think the president would be, front and center for something this important, but nope. The source material makes it clear. They're completely hands-off. Why is that?
It might seem odd, but it goes back to the Founding Fathers and their vision for a balanced government. They didn't want any single person, even the president, to have too much sway over changing the Constitution. So by giving that power to Congress and the states...
It prevents the president from pushing through changes that might not have widespread support.
Exactly. It's a safeguard against rash decisions or an overly powerful executive branch. Just another layer of checks and balances in a system that's all about checks and balances.
So this brings us to the big question. Why make it so hard? I mean, we've seen it's a long, complicated process, lots of hoops to jump through, supermajorities every step of the way. Why? What does that tell us about how the Constitution is viewed, not just by the Founding Fathers, but by all the generations that have come after?
It tells us that they see the Constitution as the bedrock of our system of government, something that shouldn't be tampered with lightly.
Not just changing it on a whim.
Exactly. This process is all about ensuring that any change to the Constitution has truly broad support. It can't just be a fleeting trend or something pushed by a small vocal group. It has to be something that resonates with the entire nation. And the difficulty of the process is there to protect us from quick fixes or poorly thought out changes that could really destabilize the whole system.
So for everyone listening out there, hopefully our deep dive today has shown you that amending the Constitution isn't just about getting that two-thirds vote. It's a journey with multiple stages, each one demanding this high level of agreement.
It's a testament to the idea that any change, this fundamental, this impactful, has to truly reflect a national consensus.
It can't just be a few people deciding the future of the country.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? If it's this difficult to change, what does that say about the 27 amendments that have made it through? Those must be some pretty important changes. And knowing how challenging this process is, what does it say about some of the issues we face today? What might be impossible to address through amendments? That's something to think about.
Lots to ponder. And that's our deep dive for today.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.